very brief introduction, certainly not all his due, but just for time. Kingsley's going to be talking about challenges affecting agro-processors in developing countries, a case study of Malawi. And Kingsley is an associate professor at LUANAR, the Lilongwe University of Ag and Natural Resources. So Kingsley, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we really look forward to your presentation.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm presenting on behalf of a multidisciplinary team. We have Susan, who is a nutritionist. We have Ronnie, agribusiness expert, and we have Francis, an economist, and myself, a food scientist. So this is, as the topic states, this is the challenges affecting agro-processor in developing countries. The case study of Malawi. This is based on our experience. So I'll take you through the introduction and also the methodology, so that I think you understand that this is not based on literature, but also based on our experience working with the agro-processors, the services that we have offered, and some selected projects, because we have had a lot of engagements and probably some impacts, but also the challenges, and go to recommendations. Next slide, please. Yeah, we all know that agro-processing is very important. You can get a lot of products from one raw material. For example, in the picture that you are seeing, you can get milk from soya beans, you can get the tofu and other products, including the sunflower. Just wanted to at least explain that from one product, you can get a lot of value-added products. Next, please. Yeah, in terms of Malawi, to be more specific, our economy is predominantly agriculture-based, and the agricultural sector, which constitutes the agro-processing, it accounts for 42% of our GDP. So very important sector, and agro-processing is also a key to the development of the economy. Next, please. Yeah, but we are also aware that the agro-processing, among many known benefits, we are aware of the benefits of agro-processing, provision of income, but also employment. It reduces post-harvest losses. For example, in most of developing countries, the post-harvest losses range from 35 to 50%. And therefore, if you do some processing, you can reduce that loss and increase incomes to the subsistence farmers, but also to the country as a whole in terms of the national economy. Next, please. Yeah, so this agro-processing that we are talking about, which more specific to Malawi, you can talk it at different levels. Agro-processing at household level, where the emphasis is to process for a household consumption. But it can also be at a level of probably cooperative or an association, where a group of people get together, financed by different organizations, but also at a large scale in terms of big players in the food industry. So that just demonstrates the agro-processing that we talk about, so that you may appreciate that the challenges that we'll be talking about shortly cut across all these levels. Next, please. Yeah, so in this one, we wanted to share with you the methodology that we have used to identify these challenges. As I pointed out on the very onset, that these challenges are not as a result of looking for information in literature, but our experiences. So like over the years, our institution, LUANAR, and other partners, stakeholders, we have been engaging in agro-processing at different levels. The level that I have talked about, at household level, at cooperative level, association level, but also at other bigger industries. Next, please. Yeah, so for the services that we have offered in these interactions, it has been on trainings on various aspects of food processing, for example, food product development, quality assurance, monitoring and auditing, including consultation so that we know their problems before we do the training, but also on issues about certification. We are not a certifying agency, but we train them based on the requirements that are needed by the Malawi Bureau of Standards, which is like the certification body. So we provide training. We also guide most of these agro-processors so that they know. But also we do food analysis so that they have the nutritional information for labeling purposes. And during our interaction with these, we have reached more than 40 agro-processors, many small scale, and probably maybe 10 to 20 companies, which we can classify under Malawi standards, maybe like large scale. Next, please. Yeah, so this is just a pictorial presentation of the services that I have talked about. We have conducted trainings, like for example, in the areas where these people are processing, like the picture that you see. The other one, we do consultation to find out their problem so that you can plan training according to their needs. And that is just a pictorial presentation of so many of the trainings that we have conducted, but also some of the meetings, the consultation meetings that we have conducted with the agro-processors at the different level that I have talked about. Next, please. Okay, so these are, I would call them some selected projects engagements. For example, the first one, back in 2007, we had a surveillance of some selected small-scale processing projects in central and southern region of Malawi. We did this with collaboration with our colleagues from Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology in Kenya, because by that time there was a program by government, the One Village, One Product program, which originated from Japan. So we wanted to have an understanding of the problems that these small-scale processors do face. And then we have been involved with the One Village, One Product from 2009 to 2016, providing them the services that I have talked about. I would like also to mention here that after this project was phased, all the agro-processors, which are many cooperatives, were absorbed by the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Now they are separate ministries, and we are still continuing with the same services that we have been doing before: product development, monitoring, certification issues, looking at their products, analyzing the nutrient content so that they can be helped in nutritional labeling of their products. We had also a project back in 2010, which was better training for safer food in Africa, which was meant that agro-processors that deals with the EU understand the food safety requirements. So it was a project which involved students as interns attached to 9 food companies. We were doing auditing. We had checklists on things to look for. Just examples, but suffice to say that we have done a lot of engagements with different stakeholders, maybe on a very short term, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but these are some of the major ones that we have engaged in. Next, please. Okay, so the impacts, what has been the impacts of our engagements with these agro-processors? what we have observed over the years is there has been a better understanding on all issues related to good manufacturing practices, good hygienic practices, and to some, maybe on HACCP. I'm saying to some because I know that most of the small-scale processors, it's very difficult for them to implement the HACCP because they are still struggling with the GMP and GHP issues. We have also seen improved hygienic practices among these processors. We have seen like better understanding of the food standards because most of them, when we started with, they were not aware that each specific food product has got its own standard, and therefore, through our engagements with them, they have a better understanding of the food standards, and therefore the certification process has a little bit been easier. There has also been some improvement and knowledge and skills on different areas in food processing because we are aware that, you know, for them to change, they have to be impacted with these skills and knowledge. Next, please. Okay, so these are like improved product quality. I think if you go in some of the shops, there are other products which have been certified through our engagements. Let me also mention that it's not only us. I mean, there are other agro-processors that have interacted with also other players, but we think that we have contributed to the improved product quality. But also there have been some certification of these agro-processors because they know the processes that are involved in the certification process as required by our regulating authority, food regulating authority, which is the Malawi Bureau of Standards. Next, please. Okay, so these are the challenges now. I was giving you the background of what we have been doing, but I think the whole idea was to present on the challenges because we know that if you know the challenges, it will be easy for you at least to look at the solutions. So what we have observed through our interaction is the non-compliances with respect to GMP and GHP, especially for small-scale processors. Let me also mention, as I pointed out earlier, that yes, there were so many non-compliances, but I think for most of the agro-processors that we have reached there has been some improvements. There have also been some limited and lack of trained personnel in the areas of food processing. This is an area that requires some expertise. There are others who just start without any prior knowledge, and therefore this is also a very big example, a very big problem, a challenge. There have also been some lack of working control systems. If you are in food processing, there are certain things that you need to have. For example, the thermometers, the moisture meters, all these things, we have observed that most of the, especially the small scale processor, they don't. You want to measure the acidity, it's not there. There have also been some limited knowledge of specific food standards, which is very common among most of the agro-processors, especially the small scale. We have also seen that there is absence of traceability systems that people cannot even trace the raw materials, like the whole food value chain, so that they can see maybe the problems that arise, for example, in the products, the raw materials that they work with. So absence of traceability system very common in most of the agro-processors. Next, please. Okay, so there has also been limited access due to absence of certification because the requirement is for you to have your products on the retail markets, you need to have a product which is certified. So the biggest challenge has been on the certification, especially on the processing premises, because certification is at two levels: certification of the product, but also at the processing premises. There has been some limited financial resources to implement the appropriate changes. There are other agro-processors who knows what they are supposed to be doing, but probably the challenge has been on the financial resources. Let me also connect with the financial resources with the issue of certification, because when they are under certification, for example, scheme under the Malawi Bureau of Standards, they need to pay a fee for like every visit. And this is a very big problem, especially for the small scale processors. You have also poor utility infrastructure and scarce water supply. This is a requirement, and because some of these processors are in rural, remote areas, the water is a problem. You don't have piped water probably in their facility, but also the facilities are not in good conditions. Next, please. Okay, so another challenge is also the lack of refrigeration and high cost of electricity. And this is a very big problem for perishable products. For example, the soya milk, during our engagements with other agro-processors who are involved probably in soya milk production, that has been a big, big problem. Sometimes you have electricity, but because of blackouts, you have also problems. And there's also limited electricity connectivity, especially in rural areas. I'm sure this is common in most of the developing countries. And then you have also low production from small-scale farmers with limited inputs. Here, maybe we can give an example of the soya beans. Sometimes there is a mismatch. You hear the farmers complaining they don't have a market, and yet the people who want to buy, they will tell you that the quantities are not enough. But many, because most of the production is from small holder farmers. Next, please. So having talked about these challenges, these are the recommendations that we think that if they can be implemented, there might be some positive changes to address the challenges. So the first one is that the stakeholders with expertise in agro-processing, for example, institutions of higher learning like us, it's not only us, we have also other institutions who have got programs in areas of food science, agro-processing. They should work closely with these agro-processors in various areas of agro-processing, such as quality assurance and certification of issues, certification. But also the processors should also be able to be assisted in market access for their products because I think for them, they also lack market skills, business skills, and therefore there is need for deliberate effort to help them access the markets. Again, connected this with certification that first the products have to be certified. Next, please. And again, this is something that I think we have observed that these processors, they need to have the necessary prerequisites before engaging in agro-processing. I think our view is not everyone is supposed to be involved in agro-processing or value addition. You need some prerequisites. Maybe they can be suppliers of the raw materials, but I think when coming up with initiatives, especially government-initiated initiatives, it's like people are encouraged to go in value addition agro-processing. And we think that you need at least to self-evaluate yourself whether you have the necessary prerequisites. There's also need for appropriate and adequate training in various aspects in food processing. It should be provided for people to start agro-processing. There is need some basic training. It's not only the passion, but you need to have the training. But also what we have observed, although our focus was only on the technical side, on areas of agro-processing, there's need for training on governance because we have seen like the agro-processor that we have engaged, a lot of issues to do with governance. You find that the groups are breaking, especially maybe when they have made profits, and they also need to be well equipped with business skills by various stakeholders. Next, please. Okay, and again, agro-processors, especially the small-scale ones, should be financially assisted to implement the necessary challenges. Yes, we can provide them with all the training that they need, but there are certain things that they need which will require some financial injection, and therefore it's important that they have to be assisted. On how, I think that can be a big debate, so that we want them also to be self-sustainable in their businesses. And lastly, we need also constant monitoring of the agro-processors, again with respect to requirements for quality assurance. Because what we have seen with the most of the agro-processors is the moment that maybe you spend a lot of time without checking on them, when you go there, you find out that they have started doing the same thing that you have maybe been training them on to improve. Okay, next, which is the last one. Okay, thank you for your attention. I hope I have been brief enough for my presentation. I thank you for your attention. Thank you.